Welcome to the carnage.
And welcome back to the Carnage, everybody. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody who's been liking, subscribing, commenting, engaging. You guys are amazing. The channel's grown quite a bit over the last 2 months. That's all because of you. And I just wanted to let you know how humble I am. And I appreciate every single one of you for engaging with this community. And definitely look forward to bringing more content and hopefully, for a good amount of time. What we're going to talk about today is a serious problem. If you read the title and then looked at the thumbnail, you would notice kind of where this is going. And it is because the Democrats do in fact have a huge problem. And that huge problem is, well, many things, but the biggest one would be obviously their voter base, right? The voter base being who they're including and who they're excluding from their voter base. And instead of trying to, figure out ways to make it amicable, what they're doing is they're doubling down on stupid shit, right? Spending tax money for things like Sam, right? It's how do we talk to young men and convince them to vote, for us instead of, voting for the other side, which seems to have, more ideals in line with what young men and men in general are looking for. And so with that, what you're seeing is them spending our tax dollars on how to speak to young men. And the funny thing about it is that they are so fucking out of touch with not just, men's issues and the current climate, but they're so out of touch with their own fucking voters that their own voters are making videos saying, well, we don't need men in our party. Fuck those assholes. We don't care. They're all racist, fucking, bigot, misogynist dickheads. Well, okay, so your leaders are coming out saying, well, we need them, but your own fucking voter base is out here saying, I hope they die in a fire. Fuck them, right? And you don't think we don't see that? Like, we don't care what the Democratic leaders have to say because we know you're fucking lying. We know you're bullshitting us. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're lying to us to get us to vote for you, right? But you do have some people in your voter base that is recognizing, well, shit, if we don't figure out a way to bring these fucking incels into our party, we're never going to win, right? And so they're saying stupid shit like, well, if you vote blue, I'll do you. If you ever want to get laid again, basically saying, men, put down your penises and pick up a pen and vote for Democrats, you fucking incel. You don't think we don't fucking see this shit? And so that's what some of these videos kind of like hone in on. Just the crazy rhetoric of, hey, let's spend a lot of tax money on systems that we know isn't going to work. Like, hey, if we put a chick in a bikini fucking drinking a beer, men are going to vote for us. No. Okay, sex sold, sure, 40 years ago, right? You'd see an ad for Bud Light, chick's wearing a bikini, she's drinking a beer, and you're like, oh, dude, that chick's pretty hot, I'm going to get me a Bud Light. It doesn't work nowadays because modern men are very desensitized to the whole sexual experience, right? So we have this thing called the internet. We have the hub, for example. It's like, why would I care about seeing a chick in a bikini drinking a beer on a commercial when I can just go online and watch two chicks scissor? Right? Like, it's the stupidest fucking thing possible. And so what do? They're like, well, we need to give them a role model. So let's put, Tim Walz in a fucking cowboy costume and talk about he's a manly's man. He likes football. It's like, oh my God, just the fucking insult to male intelligence. Like we're, just cattle that's led by our dicks. And that's it. That's all we think about. And it's just ridiculous. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and kick into some of these videos.
Far too often it feels like Democrats are saying those men are not for us, right? If they don't, the partisan, the progressive Puritanism, right? I tell people all the time, in my household, my father is the head of household, and my mother agreed with that, right? That there's not, that in a culture that has raised men to believe that men are head of household, when they have questions about a woman as president, it doesn't mean that they're no longer our voter. It means we have to engage them in a tough conversation about why gender roles are evolving, why our country is evolving. It's the same thing Barack Obama did in 2008. He didn't tell every white person that had bias, you're not my voter. He engaged them in a conversation about how his grandmother, the person he loved the most, held bias too. And that's what Democrats are not doing. We are rejecting these men who have opinions that are different than us, who don't hold our progressive puritanism, and we're telling them that they're no longer our voter. We don't want you here if you don't lead with your pronouns. We don't want you here if you don't believe that a woman should be president, as opposed to our country is evolving, there's a role for you in it, and this is what it's going to look like.
He's got a point to that, that degree that, the country is changing, right? But I'm telling you this now, men aren't sitting here in fucking corners, white knuckle dragon saying shit like, hey, we don't want no stupid bitch for a president. She'll fuck up. That's not what's going on. This is how out of fucking touch they are with just people in general, right? Men aren't having, these conventions and holding, the fucking Met hostage to talk about why we don't want a woman as president. Why we don't want Harris as president is because she proved that she couldn't fucking do the job. That's why nobody on this side voted for her. I'm a moderate voter. I'm an independent guy. I don't vote party lines. I refuse to do that. I vote for people based on, do their views and policies match up with my views and policies? And is this person qualified to do the fucking job? End of day, that's how I vote, right? I'm not telling people how to vote. I'm not saying who to vote for. But what I am saying is that the left is completely out of touch with everything, right? When it comes to, well, why are we losing men? Maybe it's because we're, harboring this subculture group of people who, feminists specifically and LGBTQ, that absolutely despise men, and particularly white straight men. And we villainize them in all of our fucking rhetoric and propaganda. So maybe that might have something to do with it. But no, instead, let's just triple, quadruple down on this rhetoric and hope that we shame them into voting for us. Like, that's going to fucking work.
Having all of this discourse about like how to get white men back into the Democratic Party. I don't give a shit about getting white men on our team. I don't care. We've done fine without them.
If you guys are going to continue to have this awful take, at least do it honestly. Stop saying white men, because the Democratic Party is losing all men. In fact, in 2024, there was a 4-point drop with white men, there was a 7-point drop with black men, and a 12-point drop with Latino men from 2020 to 2024. It is all men. And the people that are talking about how we can win back men, like Olivia Juliana and David Hogg, aren't just saying white men. They're saying all men. The only people saying white men are the people on social media that are for some reason shitting on voter outreach. Like, Trump did better with black voters than any Republican in 50 years because 3 in 10 black men under 45 voted for Trump. As I've said before, just go look at the crowd anytime Fresh and Fit, the Red Pill dudes, do a live show, and you can see very clearly it is all men.
Ever since the party switch happened, we have never had them, and we haven't needed them, and I really do not know why we are ignoring our core base right now for a demographic that is never going to vote for us.
Something I really hate about parts of the internet left is how they will completely understand how capitalism, lack of education, and propaganda can really affect people, except for when it comes to dudes, and especially white dudes, because Kamala Harris actually won the majority of educated men. And all the exit polls show that college-educated white men either voted for Trump and Harris at the same rate or just slightly less for Harris. But either way, it's miles better than the numbers with non-college-educated white men.
And that's because college-educated men are indoctrinated into a liberal way of thinking. That's college. When you go to college, you're taught these, progressive leftist ideologies. And the problem with that is these men that are voting after getting out of school usually are voting for the left. They're voting Democrat. But what we've seen, and apparently he's going to leave out of the fucking conversation, is that once men reach what we consider like our peak earning years, that most of those supposed educated men are actually leaving the left and going right. Or at least, very least, becoming independents. So you're leaving a big part of that out. So they're being indoctrinated. They leave school. They see how the fucking world works. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I think maybe I was brainwashed because a lot of this shit I no longer agree with or doesn't, line up with my own personal fucking value.
And it's almost like education matters. And to be crystal clear, nobody is saying we should ignore the base because first off, those black men are our base. Those Latino men are our base. And some people in the Democratic Party are just saying, hey, we should try and do outreach with this group that we are clearly losing, and they're doing a study on it. Nobody is saying ignore the base. Obviously, there's a ton of terrible men out there that are never going to vote for Democrats because they think everything Trump does is epic and base. But I've knocked on a lot of doors in my time working in politics, and I can tell you that a lot of times the reason people vote the way they do doesn't make a lot of sense and is based on bad information. And I think just saying, screw this entire group of people, especially when it's the largest voting group in the country, is not a good strategy. Like 54% of Latino men voted for Trump. If it gets to 60, I'm not just going to say, well, screw them, they're not going to vote for us anyway.
Well, again, I mean, that sure, you can, I guess, paint it that way if you wanted to, but there's a lot of flaw in that. Specifically, that they're not voting specifically because, Trump is base. Everything that Trump says and does is fantastic. Like, I'd love to be in the room and smell his fucking farts. That's not what's going on. What's going on is that these people are voting for Trump because Trump and the fucking right did something that the Democrats refused to do. They were looking into why are young men disenfranchised in the United States, and it all comes back and stems to a few very big turning points in the U.S. history as far as modern history, right? So let's start with Me Too. Me Too made a lot of people say, well, believe all women, okay? And then so when people started believing all women, we started seeing data where it's like, well, this is weird. Some of these guys are completely innocent and their entire lives were fucking ruined because of it. So I'm confused on whether or not we should believe all women, or maybe, we should do what has always been in this country is you're fucking innocent until proven guilty. I don't know why it's the other way around today, where you're guilty until proven innocent, but that's not the way it should be. But that's what they made it, right? So the Me Too movement was a huge proportioned, outreach of that fucking ideology that all men are dangerous. All men are oppressors. All men are, fucking bigot, misogynistic dicks. So what did you think was going to happen when men see that and they're going to be like, okay, so not only am I hated by women, I'm being falsely accused by women, and then I have a political party telling me that I should be shamed because of the way I was fucking born, because I'm a straight white guy. I'm supposed to just sit back and be like, oh, well, because these guys say I'm the bad guy, I must be the bad guy. No, go fuck yourself.
And it is clear to communicate that as an individual. Now, to the question earlier as well, when they talk about Republicans and their success online, they have been successful because they have also been very clear, especially digitally, about what they believe. That women are inferior, they do not deserve equal rights.
I don't know a single conservative in my life that thinks this, by the way. I don't know a single person on the right that I engage with in any meaningful way that's like, hey, you know what? I don't know how you feel, but bitches are inferior, bro. Like, I've never heard that come out of somebody I know's mouth, ever. So this is the problem with the Democratic Party, is the fucking propaganda, the rhetoric and lies that they want you to believe. That, well, the Republicans say that all women are inferior. I don't know a single one that has ever fucking said that.
Believe that LGBTQ Americans are subhuman, that they believe and are circulating disgusting racial and white supremacist messaging that they are able to get away with digitally and online.
Okay, anybody who's watching this right now or listening, I would love for you to email me, my email's on my page, any kind of proof that you have that we're all out here just, spitting out racist fucking garbage. And that in one moment you're saying, well, man, we lost a lot of Black and Latino voters. But then on the other hand saying, but they're all fucking white supremacist Nazis. You can't have it both ways, dickheads. It's either one or the other. If the Republican Party was complete, misogynistic, fucking racist bigots, then why did more women vote this time for Trump? Why did more Black people this time vote for Trump? Why did more Latinos this time vote for Trump? If that's what their party was about, then why are more people, and specifically the ones you're trying to convince, that whole fucking side is nothing but racist? Why did those people vote for Trump then? You can't have it both ways. And this is why AOC is a completely fucking nutbag whore.
And they are able to radicalize and target and exploit a generation of young boys, in particular, away from healthy masculinity and into an insecure masculinity that requires the domination of others who are poorer, browner, darker, or a different gender than them.
Can you believe the fucking just the balls on this bitch's fucking bullshit right now? That young white guys are just sitting in their basement waiting for the day that they can come out and be racist, misogynistic bigots. Dude, I swear to God, man, this chick has lost her ever fucking mind. I'm a white guy, right? And I know a lot of white people. I don't think I've ever been in a situation with any of my friends or family where we all just like got around the dinner table and was like, hey, you know what we're gonna do today? Let's talk down about colored people today. That sounds like fun. It's never fucking happened. It's never happened. Just the fucking level of her stupidity just fucking, it drives me insane.
And that is why they are resonating online, because they are appealing to the most basest and worst parts of human nature to divide us. And why to divide us? So that the same people who own those platforms, people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, that these people can continue.
Which by all those people do employ minorities and including LGBTQ people, just so you know. So if Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg was, fucking white supremacist Nazis, then why the fuck do they employ people, minority? And by the way, the people who are employed by these men, they don't make less than their white counterparts. They don't make less than their fucking straight male white counterparts. So what's your argument there?
To get away with highway robbery in tax cuts and in order to fleece all of our pockets, cut our health care, keep our wages low so that we remain fighting amongst ourselves while they make themselves richer. And so in order for us to fight back against that, we must be clear about what we believe.
Oh, you're clear about what you believe. That's the thing. You guys are so very clear about what you believe. That's why we don't fucking vote for you. That's, if you actually stopped and thought about it for a second and was like, maybe if I wasn't spewing this fucking false, hateful propaganda every time I open my mouth, maybe that might be why people don't, resonate with me. Or maybe that's why people, on the right can't stand me. Maybe that's why the moderate, middle, independent voters refused to vote for the Democrats this time. I wonder if that has something to do with it. No, it just must be because they're fucking racist.
Have strong beliefs and also be completely unwilling to bow to that kind of division and stand in solidarity with one another, especially when it is someone whose culture is different from ours or whose background we may not entirely understand, but that we honor, love, and see as our fellow Americans.
He's doing something bad for the country, then you go after him, right?
Yeah, well, it's like that's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have. I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken from by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down, and let's continue to have.
Boone has already agreed to that.
Well, I mean, that,
You know that.
well, for me, I do believe Leader Thune is an honorable man,
Yeah.
and I do believe
Already said, well,
he's not going to lie. I mean, you can't guarantee any outcome, but
That's
what I'm saying is that's talking about what's wrong for the country. I can't vote for I can't vote to shutting our government down.
I never thought I'd be saying this, but John Fetterman is hands down the most sane Democrat in all of Congress.
And I agree with that, actually. I watched this whole thing, by the way. He is trying to reason, right? He's saying things like, we need to take a step back from, the current political climate. We need to make sure that, the people that we're fucking supposed to be, helping, right? The people that voted for us, we should be focusing on them, but instead we're focusing on pointing fingers at each other and bitching and moaning and groaning and shutting the government down and taking a long vacation and beating our fucking meat and all this other stupid shit.
And all he had to do to earn that title from me is two things. Number one is to be genuine and sincere about his thoughts about the death of Charlie Kirk. I want you to pay extra special attention to that when I play the video right now. And the other thing he had to do is simply just say, not all Trump supporters are racist, bigots, sexist, homophobe, all this kind of stuff, and not demonizing an entire voting group just because of who they voted for. What a novel concept. I have a secret for the Democrats. I don't think they're listening. If more of them simply talked like this, they would be winning a lot more elections. But I have no fear of them changing their rhetoric, because if we've learned anything from the last 10 years, they're just going to triple and quadruple down on their rhetoric. So let's watch this video together.
I'm the only Democrat in my family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump. But they are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution, those things. And that's part of another thing. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists, or I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. And now that kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence and doing all these kinds of things like Charlie Kirk. For me, all I could say is like, let people grieve. Give people the space. I'm not going to use that terrible thing and that passive assassination to make my argument and try to put out my views. It's like, my God, he's a father that had his neck blown out by a bullet. And now people have forgotten. President Trump in my state, was shot in the head. And if that could you imagine where our nation would be if he was hit in the same way with Kirk? We really got to turn the temperature down. And we can agree to disagree on these kinds of things.
Congratulations to John Fetterman for being the only sane and common sense Democrat that we have in Washington, D.C.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing is, since Charlie Kirk, a few have came out, a few Democratic leaders have come out and said, hey, this is a horrible thing that happened, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, most of it was, just written by their fucking PR team, right? It's like, hey, you got to say something about this, because if you don't, people are going to think that, you were cool with whatever happened. Because you could tell a lot of that wasn't sincere, right? But with Fetterman, you could tell, like, he was literally sincere about it. He was like, man, this isn't cool. This is fucking bullshit. You guys need to chill the fuck out, and our government shouldn't be shut down right now. We should be working.
I am going to explain to the Democratic Party how to win the 2028 election from the words of a moderate. Because with this Charlie Kirk situation, to the Democratic Party, y'all not looking too good right now. Maybe the people within the party may not realize it, but the most important thing about winning the 2028 election is convincing people like me, moderates, and people in the middle why we should vote your side. Number one, and I even wrote this down, be able to communicate your ideas without using the emotional charge toolbox. What is the emotional charge toolbox? I got a toolbox. I'm gonna use the word racist. I'm gonna use the word fascist. I'm gonna use the word dude with the crazy mustache that does that. Stop using those words to communicate your ideas. Y'all have to think critically. If you are trying to convince somebody that thinks something else, calling them an emotionally charged name is not the way to go to change their mind. Because a lot of y'all don't know how to get your point across without using emotionally charged words. And using emotion is not how you win an argument.
And they don't know how to talk to anybody without using name calling or, they're losing an argument. And this is how I've always saw that the left debates, right, is that they start getting, to the point where they're losing in the debate, and then they start, bringing up stupid shit, right? Like instantly they start pulling out these fucking buzzwords like, well, what about trans people, right? Or, Trump grabbed women by the pussy. They use all of these buzzwords to try to get you to focus on that instead of focusing on the actual point that you were making, why they were wrong. And they do not know how to debate without using those buzzwords. They don't know how to debate without calling you names. They don't know how to debate without trying to get you out of your element where you're getting so mad and so pissed off at them. And that's why a lot of conservative, podcasters like Ben Shapiro, for example, when they're getting called these names and stuff, you will never see Ben Shapiro just fucking crash out and freak out on somebody, right? He just sits there and smiles at him like, whatever, dude. I know your tactics and your shit's not going to work on me.
Now for number 2, for the people that know how to do step 1, which is be able to communicate your ideas without using emotionally charged words, get your people in check. Because people on the left cannot take any criticism within people outside of their party. So a moderate, a Republican, you guys don't know how to take, criticism whatsoever. So it has to be the people within the party to be able to get y'all niggas in check. Now, I did see prominent, Democratic leaders and Democratic influencers speak out against Charlie Kirk's assassination, but even with them, there was a good amount of Democrats and leftists within those comments that were, somehow speaking out against their own people in the party just by trying to be, a good person to speak out against assassinations, and that's not a good look. I don't know how y'all can fix that, but y'all gotta get that shit in check. Which then that leads to my third point, which is choose the perfect candidate that can not only do step 1, which I've already explained, but yeah, y'all also gotta do step 2, which is get y'all people in check. Y'all gotta speak out against this rhetoric, and this is not just for the Democratic Party. I think the Republican Party also gotta somehow change this rhetoric of communicating with each other. But 100% the next presidential candidate, he or she has to be able to approach this with love, because if you don't and you have this crazy rhetoric and use these emotionally charged words, people are over it. People are so over it, and these words that y'all use, y'all are taking meaning away from when they actually mean those words. So yeah, that's my opinion from the words of a moderate. I know this was kind of quick, but I really just think it comes down to these 3 steps. This is how y'all win.
Yeah, he has a point, obviously, but they keep doubling and tripling down on the same fucking candidates, right? And now they're spinning the idea of trying to get AOC, for example, as possibly a candidate or a running mate for a candidate for this next election. And that's a problem, because all she ever does is come out and spew hate about the other side, right? And they run on the same foundation of Trump bad. Okay, well, why is Trump bad? Because Trump's bad. Again, you're not telling us why. Well, because he's racist. Okay, do you have proof? No. Okay. Well, he's a fascist. Okay, do you have proof? Well, no. Okay. So then Trump's bad. All right, we got that. What exactly is bad about Trump that you yourself are going to change and make America a better place? Well, you're all just fucking racist fascists. Oh, okay. Got it. That's their fucking that's what they run on. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, we're all over it, guys. We've had enough.
So you're a Democrat, but you're choosing to vote for Trump this election?
Yes, without question. Both as a Jew and also as a gay man. I'm an activist. I led the opposition to Anita Bryant and Jerry Falwell. I know where Biden is at. I'm not there to support men having babies and homos for Hamas and trans men taking over women's sports. Why don't you form your own league, go international, go Olympic, Disney will pay for it. Why do you have to beat up on the women's community? I don't understand what's going on anymore. The whole thing is out of control. And what does the White House do? They just keep on kissing everyone's behind. That goes with their policy. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. Did you support Biden last election?
Nope. Ripping us off. And when you rip us off, you're ripping off Christianity, you're ripping off Islam, you're ripping off everybody. What is your point, Biden? I can't even explain it anymore. I'm so angry.
I'm so angry too. That's why we're out here doing this. One last thing I want to say about, though, is this is a gay man, Democrat. He's choosing to support Trump in 2024. That's right?
That's it. And not only that, I made bumper stickers that say Trump.
It's far too.
So there you go. And this was before the election, right? So we kind of saw this generalized switch with some, specific demographics, right? Where they were like, we got to leave the craziness behind. Whether they go right or not, that's irrelevant, right? So what we do know is that there were a lot more independent voters in 2024 as well. But in just this last year, we saw 2.7 million people change their voting status from Democrat to Republican. So that's a huge amount of people, right? Especially with elections lately as close as they have been, particularly with the popular vote, right? So you were looking almost at 51-49 ish. Well, one side is starting to lose a lot more. So now you're going to start seeing only about 40-60. You're never going to even sniff the White House at this point, guys. You have gone way too far. And any normal, everyday thinking human being that can see what's going on, and they see the social media, they see the posts, they see what the fuck you guys are running on. Any normal, everyday thinking person is going to be like, that is not for me. And instead of trying to fix that about your party and say, hey, maybe this far left liberal agenda, maybe these people should maybe go make their own party, right? They can call it the Progressive Party or the I'm batshit crazy party or whatever. But the Democrats let these people hijack their party, and instead of doing anything about it, they just fell in line like yes men. And, that's fine, whatever. I can tell you that if I was in the Democratic Party, I'd be like, guys, we got to do something. These people are a serious problem. And without trying to necessarily alienate them, just be like, hey, we can't give up half of our base just for this, 10% of people. It's stupid. But let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you all in the next video.